Hi guys, Stacy and Kemper here, and as you can see, it's a snow day today. Quite the snowy mess out there. And that backlight, because it is so bright, let me just close this. That's better. So today we're going to be doing a video on how to frame your cross stitches, embroidery, needlepoint, all of that type stuff in a hoop. So we're going to be doing an easy hoop frame, and this is not going to have any glue or anything, so if you mess up, you'll be able to take it out and kind of start over. All right, let's get started. Yeah? For this hoop framing project, you will need your item that you're wanting to frame, the hoop that will go around its entirety without cutting off any parts of the cross stitch, a piece of felt that is the same color as your fabric for your project, a marker that will show up on the color that is your piece of felt, a needle, scissors, and thread or floss that you're going to be using. You can use white if your project is white, but today I'm using this color so that way you can see it easier. First step that you're going to do is, of course, make sure that all of your stitching fits inside of the hoop. Then you're going to take the inside hoop, set this to the side, and your felt, and what you're going to do is you are going to put your inside hoop on the felt and your marker and trace around it. There you are. And then you're going to cut around the inside of where your marker is. Okay, so now that we have our felt circle, we are going to put our project into the frame. So set the inside part of your hoop on the table, and you'll put your project on it. You can kind of tell where the hoop is just by touching it. So get it somewhat centered. It doesn't have to be perfect at this point, because when we put this around it, that's when we're going to move it. So I can see that I have a little bit more fabric over here than I have on this side, so I'm just going to move it a little bit. We're going to center it. You can also do this by flipping the project over and centering the inside hoop first, and then flipping it over, holding it tight to put on the outside part. Okay, I'm going to push this down. If your project isn't centered, just start over that part and do it again. But this is looking pretty good to me. Alright, so now I'm just going to pull all the fabric tight around it as I tighten the outside hoop. Tighten the outside hoop a little bit. And I'll just pull the fabric down so that it's taut. Tighten it again. And you'll continue this process until you get it as tight as you can get it in there. we are. The next part, we are going to be looking at the back of the project that's now in the frame, and you're going to fold all of these edges in, and we are going to get some of our floss or our thread, and we're going to just kind of gather all of the fabric around the inside like that by doing a stitch around the entire circle. I've learned that you have to get a pretty long piece of thread in order to do this. And this is actually floss. If you were using thread, you'd have to use a pretty thick piece in order to do this project. But for floss, it has 6 strands, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to separate it into 3 and 3. Just go slowly so you don't pull too hard on it and break it. There we go. So now I have one long one that is 3 strands and another long one that is 3 strands. Threading my needle. And then what we're going to do is we're going to tie a large knot at the end. Keep in mind that this is going to be on the back of your project. So if you're hanging this hoop on the wall or something, then nobody's going to see the back. So it's okay to mess up. So we're going to fold all of this in, and I'm just going to start up here. Let me start on the inside. And see how I'm just kind of in and out weaving, going in and out and in and out. That's going to end up being our gather. A little bit here and then we'll speed it up so you don't have to watch the whole thing. Okay. In and out. In, out, in, out. And pull tight. You see, whenever you pull it tight, it starts to gather it. That's what we're wanting. And we're going to do this around the entire circle. Okay, so I made it all the way around the hoop. And pulling tight all the way. It doesn't have to be super tight, as long as all of this isn't poking out too much. So if you're not satisfied with your gathering that happened, now is the time that you would remove your string and try this step again. If you are satisfied with it, we're at the end of our circle here. We are going to kind of tie off. And again, none of this is going to be seen, so it doesn't have to be beautiful or perfect or anything of that sort. So by tying off, what I'm doing is I'm just doing twice, where I put the needle through the fabric and then I'll put my needle through the loop and then pull that tight. And that kind of knots it off there, just to hold it in place, because you don't want it to loosen up and let go of your gathering while you're trying to work on the next step. Okay, So now our next step is to take our felt piece and our back of our project, which I know now is not very beautiful, but what we're going to do is we're going to attach the felt piece to the back of this, so that way it's nice and clean on the front. So before we can put this on the back and have it lay somewhat even, I had my project on a rectangular piece of fabric, and so now that I have made it a circular piece of fabric with my stitching around the outside, I'm going to cut off these 4 corners. I don't need those anymore, and all they're going to do is just make the fabric pooch. I've threaded my needle with the second piece of thread that we had, the long piece. That way you make sure that it goes all the way around, and we're going to do the same thing we did on this one and do a large knot at the end. I think that's large enough, but I'll do one more just to be safe. There we go, and there's our knot at the end of our thread. The part that had the marker on it, we're going to put that in towards the project, and the back of the felt, the part that doesn't have any marker residue on it, will be towards you. Now there's 2 ways that you can do this stitch. You can either go in this direction, so that way you're picking up the project first and then going through the felt like that and doing the stitch that direction, or you can do the opposite and go through the felt first and then through the project like that. My preference, and the way that I'm going to do this one, is to go into the project first and through the felt this direction, so that way I make sure that my needle gets into that project really good. So to start out, we're just going to put the knot through the felt, so that way it's on the back. So let's put our felt down on the edge, and we'll work our way around the hoop with our stitch. Okay, so we're going to go into the project fabric and then come out of the felt fabric. And as we pull our thread through, we're going to have a hoop right there, a loop. And you're just going to stick your needle into the loop and pull it tight. And there is our first stitch. And we're going to continue to do that all the way around. Try to keep the felt as close to the edge of the hoop as you can while you're doing this. Again, we'll stick our needle into the loop and pull tight. There's our second stitch. I'll do it a couple more times and then we'll speed this up so you don't have to watch the whole thing. If you get knots in your thread and you can't get them out, it's okay. Just keep going. If you can't get the knots out, just pull it tight. As long as it's tight, it doesn't matter what it looks like. you're using floss, you will get quite a bit of knots as you're doing this. Okay, so we're going to go all the way around the hoop. And it looks like this time I made my thread long enough to make it all the way around the hoop. Yay! Alright, so now we have made it all the way around. And what we're going to do is, you can see that when you pull it the opposite direction of the way you went around, that this stitch is kind of loose. If you pull it the same direction as the way you were stitching it when you went around, then this stitch is tight. So we're going to tie off our thread going this direction, so that way our stitches stay tight. What we're going to do is we're just going to put it into the fabric here, the felt and the fabric. Work it through. That way it's a little bit hidden, but if it shows, it's okay. And we're going to just keep working it through a little bit. And pull it tight, so that way we have all of this area where if the thread was to come loose and start working its way out, it would have to make it at least that far. So now I'm going to put my needle through one of the stitches and through the loop, pull tight, same spot, same thing, through one of the stitches, through the loop, pull tight, and let's do it one more time for safe measure. Through the stitches, through the loop, pull tight, and there we have our tie off. So now I'm just going to enter my needle through that stitch, going sideways and through the fabric, pull tight, and now we're going to cut it. There we have it, the back of our project, the back of our embroidery cross stitch. Looks so nice and clean. And the back looks pretty clean as well. It's a very easy way to do a hoop frame on your projects. The only thing is, it's a little bit time consuming, but the process of it is very easy, and your end result is a very clean looking result. And what I'm going to do is, this is actually a gift. So I'm just going to put a pin with a piece of paper on the back saying who it's from, and this one is a Christmas gift, so it'll say Merry Christmas. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe to my channel, where it's all kinds of different kinds of crafts, mostly cross-stitch stuff, but I do show a lot of different stuff on there, as well as follow me on Instagram, Stacy Noel CP. I hope that this tutorial helped some of you in order to be able to do an easy hoop frame. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful evening.